Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 11th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Please start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Republic for which it stands. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started with the meeting. Emergency exits are to your left and right out the glass doors. Restrooms are out the back and to your left. If you haven't yet, please sign the attendance sheet, which is on the back table, even if you're presenting or an application. There are business cards at the back table as well, next to the sign-in sheet with contact information for the planning department. Also on the table is a copy of resolutions that will be read tonight along with the agenda. Please silence your cell phones so you don't interrupt anyone who's speaking, and please take any conversations you may want to have with others in the audience out into the hallway, please, and close the doors. Thank you. Okay, several items this evening. Before we start with the public hearings, the meeting minutes, April 9th, 2024. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Lisa? Changes?
Nope.
Okay. Hear a motion for approval of those meeting minutes?
I'll move.
Al moves.
Okay.
Ernie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved. 5-0. Correspondence received regarding Lehigh Crossing Park. This came in late. Lisa said it came in today. From Amy Bartell. She's a neighbor in Mendon and has some comments regarding lighting and from what I gleaned anyway, after skimming it for that application. Boards and committees. Town Board, Alexis Overs here.
Hello, Alexis
Evening.
Sober at the Victortown Board. It has been a quiet 2 weeks for the town board. We had a bill pay only meeting yesterday. But other than that, just wanted to say that the town clerk's office is now accepting and registering dogs for the new dog park. The grand opening will be Saturday, June 29th at 10 a.m. Harlan Fisher Park. And, bring your dogs, or if you don't have a dog, bring yourself. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
I understand that the town is studying the solar
Yep.
arm specifications, and there's a committee being formed, or if it hasn't been already, but in the past, the planning board has participated on these, and if you were open to that, I'd like to suggest, or at least ask the board if anyone would be willing to represent the planning board. Is there room for a planning board member on it?
Yeah, I think so. Myself, I know Keith is on it as well, and Councilman Guinan. Happy to chat with Councilman Guinan about it, but I don't see being an
Okay.
issue.
Well, I'll put that in front of everyone today to think about, and then at the next board meeting, we can.
Yeah. Do you all have a chosen tribute to come to?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So I'm just looking to, because we've done this before, creation of new code items, and specifically for the wind farm specifications. So I thought it would be a good idea for the planning board to be involved in specifications regarding siting of solar panels.
Absolutely.
So certainly I think there's a wealth of information here that could help out, so.
If you guys are interested, we're happy to have a member on.
Okay.
Our meeting, next meeting, we just had one yesterday.
Right.
But our next one is, let me see, June, I think went 2 weeks. Usually 8 a.m., if that matters to anyone. Up in the,
Ernie's thinking that's a little early for me.
Ernie, it is early for me too. Councilman Guinan suggested 7 a.m. I said, no,
Is it,
that's.
what, was it like on Mondays or?
It depends on the week. But usually we're about 8 a.m. over in the upstairs in the Veterans Meeting Room.
Okay.
Our next meeting will be Monday, June 24th, and then we have another one. We try to go every week or every 2 weeks. Just with the summer schedule, we've been kind of going every 2 weeks, but before that, we've been going once a week. We have another meeting then on Thursday, July 11th, 8 a.m.
Okay.
We go
All
about
right.
an hour, I'd say hour and a half.
Okay. All right. Well, you all have heard this, so we can chat about it, and if anyone's willing to jump in.
I think it's a good idea to have representation there. I mean, I think that ties in with an application we had that was withdrawn shortly thereafter, so.
Mhm.
And it's not something that's going away. It's going to be here
Right.
for quite
I
some
mean,
time.
it directly affects anything that comes within eyesight of any of the other application, and any of these wind solar farms that get placed anywhere we are. Same as with the windmills, except the broader, more superficial impact, I'll call it,
Yep.
on any given property.
Is this for both solar and wind, or is it just?
Solar, we have a wind code that I was part of that committee about 15 years ago, so that worked out very well. We got a nice code put together with Lobella's assistance. So I think this certainly will help us. If nothing else, we'll have someone who's been active in it that can
Mhm.
relate when an application comes before the board. I can't be on that committee only because currently we serve a number of applicants that may or may not come before the town on an application. So that's why I'm looking to you guys to be a resource. So,
Perfect.
great.
Yeah, so, and we're just doing solar, as well as battery storage at the recommendation of the county planning board. Our code did not address battery storage, and it's something that is more of a newer topic since the last time the code was addressed. So it was something that they recommended,
Okay.
all of the towns really in the county kind of address in their codes. So just those two topics, and I don't
Like a target date when you want this finished?
We're hoping on the 6-month moratorium to try and stay within that, and if we need to, extend. Personally, I'm hoping for not more than like 2 or 3 months, extend the moratorium, so looking for some time in mid-fall
Okay.
to have everything up and done. But that would also include bringing it to every single planning board for everyone's review here, as well as conservation board, et cetera, for everybody's comments and input. And then we'd also do public hearings and whatnot too.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alexis.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Keith, next meeting.
Good evening, Keith Maynard, Project Manager for the Town of Victor. So your next planning board meeting is Wednesday, June 26th at 7 PM. 3 items with public hearings on your agenda. First one is the U-Haul self-storage, which is at 8045 State Route 96. 9.3 acres. Applicant is requesting approval to combine 2 tax parcels to facilitate the placement of prefabricated metal storage units totaling 13,600 square feet on the existing paved parking area. Second one is Tuv Shed site plan, which is actually proposed to be on one of the lots we're going to talk about tonight at the Wilkins site. This is at 7447 State Route 96, 20.7 acres. Applicant is requesting approval for the proposed Tuff Shed tenant to display units in the existing parking area, install material racking systems on the east and south faces of the building, and the new refuse enclosure. And the third and last one is Tambi Electric parking expansion. This is at 614 Fisher's Run. Applicant is requesting approval to construct the addition of 20 parking spaces east of the existing parking lot located on the south side of the building. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks,
Okay,
Keith.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 items on the agenda this evening. First item is the Wilkins RV Minor Subdivision, 7447 State Route 96, owner BLW Properties of Victor. Applicants requesting approval to subdivide 24.2 acre parcel into 2 lots. Lot 1 will consist of 3.4 acres and the existing 1-story metal building that was the Wilkins RV showroom. And Lot 2 will consist of 20.7 acres, and the rear one-story metal building, as Keith just indicated, that we'll be looking at. So, good evening.
Good evening, Alex Zammering with Costage Engineering, offices at 217 Lake Ave, representing BLW Properties of Victor. With me is Brian Wilkins, part of the ownership team there. Obviously, Wilkins RV no longer own or operates out of that location, so they have been looking at potential, real estate transactions. So the proposed subdivision in front of you would essentially split the property. There is a drainage ditch, if you're familiar. The lot line would generally follow the drainage ditch. He is under contract to sell Lot 1 of the subdivision. That would be the smaller 3-acre parcel. He would retain the larger Lot 2. And we would be coming forth with a potential lease tenant for Lot 2. I think that would be scheduled at the next meeting. Obviously, the subdivision is a condition of the sale of Lot 1, and also would need to be done before, the Tough Shed application came forward for Lot 2. We are in receipt of a number of comments, code enforcement comments, stormwater program comments, consulting engineer comments from Labella, and I was informed Ontario County did find this was an exempt review application from the county. With that being said, I think we'll just turn it over for questions.
Okay, thank you. Kate is representing Labella this evening, just Wes is out, unavailable, but I'll open it to the board, give you a chance to breathe for a second. And Joe, any questions?
I'm just looking through, at one point when Wilkins was looking to do further development on the property, there was an issue with the drainage ditch, and I think it was maybe called a stream at that point in time. And the deal breaker, I think, with them redeveloping the property was something to do with maintaining or improving or reinvigorating that stream.
I think they were wetlands. They
There
were
was
federal
wetlands on the perimeter as well, and they are, you're right.
And that creek's a federal wetland.
Federal wetland.
So my first question is, which lot will that stream or thing belong to?
We'll split it. There's actually a town-owned drainage easement. We use the center line of the easement. Obviously, any of the easements that exist on the two parcels would be carried, to any successors, so the easements would be handed on.
And then if there are issues with anything to do with that stream, will there be some agreement between the property owners that they will, one or the other, or both share?
Let's, Keith's got his
There was a comment.
hand in
from
there.
that.
Just to clarify that comment, so again, Keith Maynard, project manager. So we asked for stormwater facilities maintenance agreement, as we typically would with a project like this, so it's clear going forward who on the private property owner side is responsible for it. So yeah, I guess to clarify that comment, in this case, which parcel is going to be responsible for it, and is there going to be an easement to that parcel on the other parcel, so that who's maintaining that stream from now on? I guess was just to clarify that comment that we had.
Thank you.
One of the items on that creek stream discussion was, there was the initial interest in basically piping it and not, and filling it over for parking and stuff, which would have given them a more flexible parking arrangement, but that clearly isn't allowed, so
Sure.
I'm sure that's some motivation for splitting the property the way you're recommending here.
Yeah, certainly with any parking or building setbacks, there would really be no desire. I think it would be safe to say to develop any of that or pipe it, being a property line, so.
Okay. And then the only other comment is I'm pretty pleased to see how quickly something's happening with that property rather than having it sit there vacant forever. So kudos for that.
Okay, Al, questions?
Yeah, nothing in addition to that, no.
Okay. Scott?
So we're going to be seeing a site plan submitted shortly that is going to be on, dealing with one of these two lots, is that correct?
Yeah, obviously, as part of the real estate transaction, I would imagine, you know, if they close on lot one, that would be, you know, further out. We did make application for lot two for the lease tenant, who would be Tough Shed.
On the larger parcel.
Yeah, and the code enforcement comments obviously discuss the use and occupancy, I think, you know, permitting process, which we acknowledge, and in order to get, I think, C of Os, you know, we would have to work with them, so.
So the property lines that are being proposed then, take into consideration the future site plans and whatever improvements are necessary, so as, I presume, to reduce or eliminate the need for variances and that sort of thing?
The only variance that was brought up by code enforcement based on the subdivision itself was regarding the frontage on lot one. And I think at the time that they initially reviewed it, they didn't realize that Omnitech was a public right-of-way and public road. So there is plenty of frontage, not only on 96, but on Omnitech. I can tell you, because we're representing the Tough Shed application also, they would essentially be utilizing the building that's out there today and then the parking lot for storage of display units, I should say.
So they would fall under pre-existing non-conforming
There's what's,
mentions and that sort of thing?
not only is the site plan triggering us coming to the planning board, but I believe it also requires a special use permit, so there's really no plans on the table for lot one until, you know, the sale goes through. That would be up to the buyer.
And I believe that the fact that they're subdividing forced the thought that there would potentially need a variance for road frontage for the second lot.
I
So
see.
right before, with a single lot, they had plenty of road frontage, obviously, for the single use, but
We'll say there's currently two curb cuts, which actually works good for the subdivision, but as part of the a review by legal counsel for the sale of the property, they will be also utilizing a cross-access easement in case someone pulls in the wrong entrance. They aren't forced to go back out onto 96, which I think is a good planning practice, so.
I agree.
yeah.
And you mentioned that when you consider the frontage along Omnitech Place, that then satisfies that particular
Yeah,
frontage requirement?
the code office actually issued a memo following up with their original variance comment, saying they essentially retracted the comment.
Okay. I guess the purpose of my questions was just to confirm that you're confident that the property lines you're creating are going to agree with the way you intend to develop the sites, and that's all. It sounds like it's been answered, so thank you.
Yep.
Ernie?
I see on the aerial exhibit, there's a trail that runs through the south side of it. How is this going to affect that, if at all? Trolley trail.
That's all part of wetlands, so we couldn't really do, that could never be developed in the future. I'm not sure exactly what GIS that came from. But back when Brian was originally looking in 2019, I think, to further develop that property, we had a wetland delineation done, and obviously that limited his ability to, you know, expand his business, kind of leading to where we are now. So I think it's safe to say nothing will be happening where that trail is depicted.
Okay.
Are there wetlands on that portion of the lot beyond the parking that you're aware? I seem to recall there's a pretty substantial amount of wetlands in that
I think so.
whole parcel to the south
It's,
of everything.
yeah, we didn't carry the hatching on the drawing, but all those flags were the delineation stakes, and it pretty much goes all the way to the rear.
So there's no, I think Wilkins had that problem, they couldn't expand on the lot. So
Yep.
they needed more space and went to Waterloo. So here we are. Okay, as long as everyone understands that there are limitations to the entire parcel, it's just limited by what's already been paved, developed, you know.
Yeah, and that's why actually you'll see the property line kind of has a funky jog. We want to make sure the plan presented to the board didn't require variances, and there's a 35% green space requirement for parcels with wetlands, so that's how we achieved the 35% with lot one.
Kate, anything from Labella? Comments?
For Kate Powers, LaBelle Associates. We had minimal comments. Our first one discussed the adequacy of the frontage, which has already been discussed, of the smaller lot. We deferred to the town CEO, and then their comments dated June 10th. They had noted that the frontage does comply with the zoning code. And then our second through fourth comments were just minor text changes. We had one addition. It's on the backside or page 2 of the resolution. Item 7, we also noted that we suggest that the subdivision plan include a depiction of the proposed cross-access easement prior to Chairman. That's all.
Okay. Great, thanks. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that has any questions or online, now, I guess, approach the mic. Seeing none, I don't assume, Susie, there's no online questions? Okay. I'll entertain motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Joe moves. Ernie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Public information, or public hearing is closed. We do have a draft resolution, and as Kate mentioned, there's an item on 7 that there's a suggestion, but I'll read the resolution that we can move forward with here on this application. So, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, the application was received on April 30th, 2024 by BLW Properties of Victor, LLC, the applicant, by the Secretary of the Planning Board for a minor subdivision entitled Wilkins RV Minor Subdivision. That's the project. There are 9 more whereases. Whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board reviewed the unlisted action on June 11th, 2024, and identified no significant impacts, now therefore be it resolved that the project Wilkins RV Minor Subdivision will not have a significant impact on the environment, and that a negative declaration be prepared. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of BLW Properties of Victor LLC minor subdivision entitled Wilkins RV Minor Subdivision drawn by Costage Engineering dated April 10th, 2024, received by the Planning Board April 30th, 2024, Planning Board application 3MS 2024, be approved with the following conditions. Conditions that must be met prior to the chairman signing the minor subdivision plan. Item 1 is standard. Item 2, that before the planning board chairman signs the approved film originals, the developer should submit 2 copies of electronic files to the town. Copies shall be forwarded to the town engineer's office to confirm that the data on the electronic files are the same as the approved subdivision plans. Number 3 is standard. Number 4, that comments in a letter dated June 7th, 2024 from Labella Associates be addressed. Number 5, that the comments from Code Enforcement Officer dated May 29th, 2024, and a memo dated June 10th, 2024 be addressed. Number 6, that the comments from the Stormwater Manager dated June 10th, 2024 be addressed. Number 7, that the subdivision plan include a depiction of the proposed cross access easement. Conditions that are not ongoing, standard conditions that must be adhered to. Number 1 is standard, number 2 is standard, number 3, that a Town of Victor building permit and certificate of compliance is required prior to building on proposed Lot 1 being occupied. And be it further resolved that the Planning Board Secretary distribute the Planning Board's approval letter. So as read and written, do I hear a motion for approval?
Move.
Ernie moves.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Number 2, Lehigh Crossing, Lot 9. We've seen this a number of years ago. It is coming back for reapproval because time has expired on this application. It's 7901 Lehigh Crossing, the owner's Bluestone Creek Development LLC. The applicant's requesting approval to construct a 33,600 square foot flex space building to accommodate office, manufacturing, and warehouse space for multiple tenants. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman. I'm Kurt Sertle from Bluestone Creek Development, and with me tonight is Steve Schultz from MRB. As you stated, we're looking at 33,600 square foot building on Lot 8, Lehigh Crossing, multi-tenant office warehouse building, previously approved in 2019, submitted again exactly as previously approved. We didn't get the building permit going fast enough, and we got caught up in the whole COVID mess. So that's why we didn't get it done in
You're not the only one.
late 19, early 20. Hindsight 2020 would have been really good to get it done, but arguably right now, the market for this type of I've been leasing this type of property for 35 years. The market for this type of property right now is through the roof. I'm getting calls every day that I tell people, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to offer you. 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, and that's in Victor as well as all our holdings in Monroe County. And we have one existing tenant who is interested in a big expansion, and then we have the tenant that shares the building with them interested in expansion. So potentially, we could.
If buildings.
We could expand 2 tenants
Yep.
within the park if the stars align, but that's still on the come. Just to address a couple of the comments that I reviewed, the Labella comments, there was a comment about the sameness of the look of the building within the park, and I would state that I think we've done a pretty nice job of varying the look of the buildings in the park. We have, this proposed building has 4 entrances. There's one other building that has 4 entrances. There's one building that has 3, 2 buildings that have 2, and then 3 buildings are single tenant, so they have 1. The last 2 buildings we built, which would be Lot 5 and Lot 8, 8 and 9 are next to each other on the south side. 5 and 8 were similar buildings, but one has 3 entrances, one has 4. But we varied the color of the metal panel, we varied the color of the drive-it, and we varied the color of the painted block. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of not making the park look like a cookie cutter, which was the intent right from the start. And then the other comment that I saw that was significant was the fire marshal. Would you like me to address that? So the fire marshal requested 4 private hydrants, 1 at each corner of the building. The way the site plan is proposed, as well as all the other buildings in the park, we have 1 private hydrant on the site. And then there is a public hydrant at the street on the north side directly, so it'd be directly across the street from this particular lot. This building is sprinkled, as all the other buildings in the park are sprinkled, and we just think that 4 private hydrants on the site is overkill and not required by code.
Okay.
And with that, I would ask if there's any questions.
Sure. Start, Joe.
While we're on the fire department comments, they also commented or requested the Knox box being located contiguous with the sprinkler room.
Yes, so we normally put them on the front of the building, but we're happy to put one on the front and one on the back.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's all I've got.
All right, now.
No, it's consistent with what had been previously approved, so I have no issues.
Okay. Ernie?
no substantial difference from the original submission a few years ago?
It's exactly the same.
We did get a correspondence from one of the residents, neighboring residents in Mendon, I think Mendon. And
Amy Bartel.
made a comment about lighting.
Okay, in reviewing the proposed photometrics, all the building and parking lot lighting stay within the footprint of the lot on the proposed photometrics, so I'm not sure what her comment was. I didn't see
Oh,
that.
well, here, you can have this.
Yeah, it came in very late, so
Okay.
I will send it tomorrow morning, but
Okay.
just so you know.
Yeah, one of the main principal comment that I'm looking at here, any lighting on the building and on poles on the property should be designed to avoid glare in our neighborhood. Bulbs should be placed low enough on the building and angled downward, so that she's basically saying are sky compliant.
Which they
So they're
will be.
all full
Yep.
cutoff,
Yep.
facing down on the sides of the buildings, light poles, full cutoff, downward lighting. They don't, she's asking that they're not too tall. I don't know what the height of the other poles are on site. Are there driveway poles?
There's some parking lot poles. The only site lighting is in the front parking lot. Only pole lighting is in the front parking lot. Everything else is building mount. Um,
16? Okay, that's. I was going to say 16 is a pretty good height. It's low. Good meaning positive. I need to put you on the mic, sorry. Thanks.
Steve Schultz, MRB. Some of the other jobs, we've done quite a few with the Galena, and the poles are typically 20 feet.
Okay,
They're the
and you were
light.
saying that these are 16 feet?
Yeah, that's what's shown on the plan, but
Okay.
I think we should just double check to
Okay.
confirm.
Yeah, so it looks like she's not happy with the Danforth building, right, on Old Dutch Road, so.
Well, she's saying they're not
Of
code
course.
compliant, so
It's
I
a
guess,
long ways away.
Yeah, that's what
yeah, we'll have to know during our review that they're all complying with code.
Right.
It's not a hard thing to do.
Yep. Certainly, all the pole lighting and all the building lighting will be code compliant.
Okay, good. All right, I hope that addresses her concerns. Fortunately, you're further away from that development than
Right.
Danforth is, which is right next door.
Yeah.
And you're well within that park, so,
Yeah, because really, kind of Canning is in between us and
Right.
that corner of Canning would be between us and them by,
yeah, you've got
as the crow
basic,
flies.
yeah, I mean, you've got the Will's Power
Right.
Firm between you and Old Dutch
Right.
with Woods, so. I'm sorry? Printing place, okay, yeah.
Have you had any complaints about lighting?
Not that I'm aware of. I can double check with our property management group
Keith-
tomorrow, but
Keith says no also.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, that's good. And we're addressing it, so I think that's helpful. So, all right. She may be more concerned about what's going to happen than complaining about something that's already done, so
Right.
that's good.
Well, and she didn't specifically reference any of the properties in our park,
No.
so.
Right.
Danforth's
and-
quite a bit
and her
away.
concern.
Yeah, yeah, Ernie's basically reflecting on that Danforth is close to her parcel and her neighbors. So, anything else, Ernie?
Nope, that's it.
Hey, Scott, any comments?
Just want to say hi to Kurt. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, long time no see.
Just to reference that resident's letter, she speaks about trees. I see you have a landscaping plan already prepared. I don't know if that addresses her tree concern or not. And she also brings up noise and truck loading. Maybe you could just speak to those items.
Are there loading docks on the west side of the building?
There would be loading docks on the south side.
Against the trail,
against the trail.
the Lehigh Trail.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because the front of the building is north.
Okay.
Rear of the building is south. The way we lay the the way we lay the buildings out, there could be, there could be 6 to 8 loading docks in the back of that building. We put the drive-in doors on each end with a ramp, and then the loading docks go in between there, and what we do now is, say if it's laid out for, well, that building, if it got devised to its minimum dimensions of a half a bay is 4,200 square feet, so there could potentially be 8 tenants in there. Yep, which I think would be pretty unlikely based on our leasing of the other buildings. So that's potentially 8 doors, but what we're doing now is we're putting in, 4 or 5 doors and then putting in knockout panels for the other ones, and then if we need to pop them in, we can pop them in.
It's flex space, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The building next door where Plockmatic and Eltron is, that's a 2-tenant building, that's the same size. And then across the street where Aon Coverwallet is, that's a 3-tenant building. So, and that's the same size, and we're 100% occupied there.
Relative to noise, does it have any, I think she's just asking, are you going to operate these doors during the regular business hours, and I presume that you are.
Yes, yes. I mean, yes, to the best of my knowledge, it would be during regular business. I think we have very few tenants that operate outside of regular business hours. And our tenant base is generally not manufacturing. It's
You don't have
more-
multiple trucks in every bay coming in and out every day,
it's
right?
more-
It's like
it's more
1 or 2
lighter-
trucks a day. or
Lighter distribution and, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Oh,
A
sure.
little bit, I'm not
Yeah, so your building goes this way, right? Sort of
Correct.
east-west.
Yep.
The south side faces Lehigh Trail, which is here, and that's where the loading docks are, the back of the building relative to the street.
Residential area that we're getting the comment from.
Way over
To the
there.
west,
Yeah, way up,
Oh, yeah,
way up to the west.
way,
Okay.
way, way.
Have Old Dutch Road in between
Okay,
that and Danforth, and then
Two of our lots plus,
these two here.
yeah.
Chuck Lill and,
Yeah, Lil's right here,
yeah.
and then you'd have Old Dutch, and you have that whole other subdivision. I could keep going, but that's where Danforth is.
was Danforth the one where we put the karate studio in that, or was that, which was?
I think so.
Wire.
Yeah.
That's Old Dutch Road.
That's Old Dutch Road, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get my
right. It's,
bearings, that's all.
it's pretty far, and you got buildings in between, or we'll have more buildings in between.
Right, we have 2 more lots there on the west end of the park.
Yeah. And those have nothing applied for yet, correct?
No.
Okay.
And there's a hill. But the landscaping is, the idea for the back of this one is majority of the trees will remain here, and then we'll supplement them in the area where it's thinner
Okay.
with additional trees that run all the way
Right
to the
in-
property
right
line.
here You're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, you
So-
can see the trees that exist along the bottom edge, and then the bottom left corner is a little vacant, so we'll supplement that with additional landscaping.
Great. Scott, anything else?
No, I think I like the responses. I'm glad we asked the questions. Thank you.
Good. This is still before the county. We can't give you a resolution tonight,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
why is it before the county when it's, right, it's a 10-year-old subdivision and a
I think because it's a
predetermined lot.
reapplication, it automatically goes there on the previous requirements.
Yeah, per the county, I did ask her, and it is within that blue area, and it did go in 2019 to the county.
Oh, okay,
So because it's been 5 years almost, they wanted to see it again.
okay,
So, and I told her it was exactly the same, but
okay.
This should be,
it triggered it,
yeah,
so.
this should be pretty straightforward next meeting, 2 weeks.
Okay.
I don't see them having an issue with this,
Yeah.
so.
I just had one more question, which related to your fire hydrants. Have you spoken with the fire marshal about those comments and tried to negotiate that issue or anything?
Well, Tom Fromberger, who works with Steve, spoke to Bob Graham, but, right? It was my understanding that the 4 hydrants were requested by the fire chief, but Bob Graham is the fire marshal, right?
For the town.
Well, they were talking Fishers now, right?
Yeah, this, apparently it came from, I think Tom talked to someone from Mendon. Mendon, he said, Mendon's fire chief.
Oh, really?
is the one who required.
Oh, but they would be mutual aid if,
He suggested the 4 hydrants, but in looking at the building code, it's typically, you can go up to 600 feet spacing when you have sprinklers, but 400 without sprinklers, and we're still within the 400 even, and we are sprinklered, so I'm not sure why, every building in this park has a hydrant in the back, 1 hydrant in the back, and then the hydrants on the street.
okay.
I'm not sure why.
Well, I guess the best thing to do is for you to put that,
Yeah,
back to
we
the fire
have a
marshal and
response
say-
letter, and I think, Tom, did he send it to you?
Yep, he did send it in the fire marshal, but it came later, so the fire
Yeah.
marshal didn't have time to respond, but
Yeah.
he does have a response
okay,
in the next couple days, so
Okay.
by the next meeting, he'll have
we'll have
it.
that squared away, it sounds
Apparently, we
like.
have a 2-week window, so.
So that should work itself out by the time we hear back from the county, right?
Yeah.
I would think we'd certainly be able to do that.
All right, well, we look forward to expanding your project, and that's great, appreciate it.
Great,
So
thank you very much.
that's all we can do for the moment, and unless you have anything else for us, I think we're pretty set.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? It was pretty straightforward. Yeah, okay. All right. That's the last of the 2 items we have. I wanted to revisit the question regarding the solar farm committee and see if anyone has an immediate interest in or willingness to participate.
I'm willing to participate,
Okay.
but I don't want to take anybody's thunder away.
Well,
No.
you know, if it takes, well, I won't say that because it's most efficient to have the same person every meeting, but if there was a need, special need that you couldn't make it and someone else might be able to in your place, you have to get them up to speed, but,
I think that's a real good idea to have representation there because that's just a hot button issue for every community right now.
yeah,
I went to the solar presentation by the New York Planning Federation last week,
good.
and it was sort of helpful. It wasn't greatly helpful.
Mhm.
About an hour. But I can foresee.
Personally, my biggest concern about locating these farms is as soon as you plop it somewhere, even if it's an odd, especially if it's an odd lot, and then you have land all the way around it, it kind of diminishes the ability for someone to be able to site housing or a development or, buffer. And as soon as you buffer, then trees grow up and they block the sun, so that's a problem. So there's a lot to think about as we're going through this code.
You mentioned that there was a wind ordinance, wind farm.
Yes, so we have a windmill or wind tower require,
I have to think there's got to be some similarity between the two.
well, there's things like, fall distance, if the tower goes, it's gotta have a certain fall radius away from buildings. Flicker, there's some other things that, I think there's a limitation in the height, because just like cell towers in this town, we don't want them to be high enough where they require lights
Right.
for aircraft. So there's limitations there. And there's only a couple of them in town, honestly. And the one at the Apple Farm hasn't functioned for years, because there's like 2 blades out of 3 on there, and they haven't touched it. So it always puzzled me why that's the case, and for the record, I haven't figured that out,
I
so.
have to think with solar farms that the biggest thing that jumps out at me, and especially in that one application that I saw that was pulled, it was in Fishers, is just the use relative to the adjoining uses. In that particular case, it was that use
Yeah,
and the compatibility of residential that surrounded it. And I think that's the tough one. I've seen other communities deal, in particular Canandaigua, with solar farms, and there are certain farmers that come in with land that's sort of unproductive and they want to get some value out of their land, and in those particular areas where their farmlands were pretty isolated and not really in, shall we say, prime development area or prime farming area, the farms have gone through,
yeah.
the solar farms that is, but I think it's a tough issue because Well, these things they've got at least a 25 or 30-year life, right?
Yeah.
Before you have to retrofit it again or something.
Usually it's, the battery storage is a big deal. Fire department access to where the battery storage is on the site, things like that.
Yeah, and the DEC, from the standpoint of stormwater, just came out with a whole bunch of new regulations regarding stormwater treatment of solar farms, and I went to a seminar on that, a video seminar. I'm still not quite sure that I understand the theory behind it all.
I saw an article about, I want to say it was in Europe somewhere or Scotland, where they had a solar farm, but they spaced them far enough that everything would grow in between, and
Right.
they raised the goats and sheep or something
Right.
in amongst, and there was like instant shade for them if they wanted to get out of shade, but there was still plenty of grazing. So there was like a combined use on site. I thought it was pretty creative and, maintained a farm capability.
Yeah, this presentation last Wednesday went over that.
Yeah.
In fact, in some of them, the animals go right under the panels
Mhm.
and graze, and
Yeah.
it will still grow,
Mhm.
grass and
Sure.
things that they'll eat.
Yeah. So there's a ton of things to think about, as you were saying, and,
Yeah.
just the comments that we hear.
Well, one public hearing that I was at in the town of Canandaigua, I mean, the solar farm was proposed near Westlake Road, and let me tell you, it lit up that community big
I bet it
time.
did.
And I'm not sure if it actually got built, quite honestly, but it certainly had, it has the ability to really concern people, and I think rightfully so. Because it's just a very odd thing, for lack of a better description, that's poking up here and there, and I understand its value and purpose, but that use issue, that's really tough, I think.
I mean, you see them in large tracts along the thruway or other major highways.
Yeah.
Where you may not necessarily put housing. And then there's this huge grass median on the thruway. You'd think that maybe somebody would say, hey, let's put a whole string of them along there. But putting them in the middle of farm country, either there or next to large developments, seems like a challenge to,
And
Placement.
it's similar to the wind farms that you see near the south end of Canandaigua Lake. Most of them are situated in Cohocton. I mean,
yeah.
the various stories that I've heard is on those projects were that Cohocton kind of was a soft community in which they could put those items, in addition to, I suppose, the winds being what they were, or what they are, but I think it's safe to say that Cohocton wasn't overly prepared for advent of wind farms coming into their community.
Yeah, it's pretty much doubled in size since then, too.
Yeah.
So spread down towards Avoca and that area.
Right.
Down south of Naples, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Down south of Naples, there are a lot of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And when
pretty
I
much.
drive by, rarely do I see them moving.
Right, which begs the question, what are we doing here?
Yeah, you see that a lot. I always try to count the percentage of them moving versus not moving as I go down there.
Then I guess if it moves too fast, then it disengages.
They'll take off.
Yeah. Okay,
Apparently, the only one that got the memo from me was Scott about wearing a blue shirt tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I have green and red and whatever. Anyway, unless anyone has anything else, I'll
No?
entertain a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
move.
Al moves.
Second.
Have a great evening, everyone. So what was your over-under?
8.